I would like to begin with Libya on a rather somber note. 1 month ago tonight, on the anniversary of 9/11, Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other brave Americans were killed in a terrorist attack in Benghazi. The State Department has now made clear there were no protesters there.
In fact, this was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack.
Natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video.
There was a violent protest outside of our embassy sparked by this hateful video. This is a response to a hateful and offensive video.
There's a crude and disgusting video.
See, this is in response to a video that is offensive.
There was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated.
The video circulating on the internet that has led to these protests
Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world. Extremely offensive video directed at Muhammad and Islam.
as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet.
A video, a film.
Obviously, we've denounced it, and the United States government had nothing to do with it.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
The United States government had nothing to do with this video.
The United States government had absolutely nothing to do with this video.
As a consequence of the video.
You don't really believe that.
Dang if I know. I mean, honestly.
It took the president 2 weeks to acknowledge that this was a terrorist attack. He went to the UN, and in his speech at the UN, he said 6 times he talked about the YouTube video. Look, if we're hit by terrorists, we're going to call it for what it is, a terrorist attack.
Good morning, Josh. As you know, when this attack happened, the White House initially said it arose out of a spontaneous protest over an anti-Muslim video. That turned out not to be true, and the White House said they relied entirely on CIA talking points. But I have obtained 12 different versions of those talking points that shows that they were dramatically edited by the administration. Take a look at 2 of them. On the left, a draft initially written by the CIA. On the right, one that was used by the White House, the final version. What was taken out? All references to Al-Qaeda and all references to CIA warnings before the attack about the terror threat in Benghazi. Now, the White House is saying that there is nothing inappropriate about the State Department giving input into this, and that ultimately the CIA drafted these talking points and approved them. But I'll tell you, Josh, they initially said only 1 word had been changed.
What we are watching on our TV screens is the unraveling of the Obama foreign policy, which is making the world more chaotic and us less safe.
The first draft of the talking points by the CIA on Friday, September 14th, states that we do know that Islamic extremists with ties to Al-Qaeda participated in the attack. Later that day, the reference to Al-Qaeda is dropped, and attack is changed to violent demonstrations.
When we equivocate on our values, when we show that we're cutting our own defense, it makes us more weak. It projects weakness, and when we look weak, our adversaries are much more willing to test us. They're more brazen in their attacks, and our allies are less willing to
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey!
And why is that so?
Because not a single thing he said is accurate. First of all...
Be specific.
I will be very specific. Number one, this lecture on embassy security. The congressman here cut embassy security in his budget by $300 million below what we asked for, number one. So much for the embassy security.
Well, you're also talking about a vote that never came to fruition because we actually continued at the exact same funding levels moving forward. This is a vote that happened over in the House, but remember, the Senate never got to this point, so we did a continuing resolution. So it's a red herring.
The congressman here cut embassy security in his budget by $300 million below what we asked for.
It's a red herring. The reality is you have to prioritize things.
I mean, these guys bet against America all the time.
Can we talk about, let me go back to Libya. What were you first told about the attack? Why were people talking about protests? When people in the consulate first saw armed men attacking with guns, there were no protesters.
Because
why did that go on for weeks?
What we were told by the intelligence community. The intelligence community told us that, As they learned more facts about exactly what happened, they changed their assessment.
You don't really believe that.
So the big deal here is that the original talking points were altered in a way to create a false story about what happened in Benghazi, supportive to the political ambitions of the president 7 weeks before an election.
And they wanted more security there.
Well, we weren't told they wanted more security again. We did not know they wanted more security again.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill say diplomats in Benghazi begged for security increases, but were refused.
Well, we weren't told they wanted more security again. We did not know they wanted more security again.
The State Department did know in real time from videos that requests for more security resources had been made and were turned down.
Citing new accounts from whistleblowers, top Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, in a letter to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the U.S. mission in Libya made repeated requests for increased security in Benghazi. The mission in Libya, however, was denied these resources by officials in Washington.
You know, usually when there's a crisis, we pull together. We pull together as a nation. You know, usually when there's a crisis, we pull together. We pull together as a nation.
Coronavirus emanated from China. A national emergency, worldwide alerts. The American people need to have a president who they can trust what he says about it.
Governor Romney and the campaign continue to try to politicize the tragedy, and their strategy seems to be to try to make it appear that the president didn't care or didn't know or was lying. The fact of the matter is the president was clear.
Unfortunately, this virus laid bare the severe shortcomings of the current administration. Public fears are being compounded by a pervasive lack of trust in this president. This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia, and fear-mongering.
Calling President Trump racist and xenophobic because he shuts the border down amidst a pandemic? You got a crisis going on. You got people flying over here with coronavirus, and the president says shut down the border so we don't spread the virus, and you go right to race baiting? Come on, brother. That's not what this country needs right now. We need some folks talking about unity, not division.
You know, usually when there's a crisis, we pull together. We pull together as a nation.
Before I do that, you had breaking news last night. You know that, you saw that, where I think the probable presidential candidate for the Democrats will be Joe Biden. And he agreed that I was correct when I stopped people from China very early, very, very early, from coming into our country. And Dr. Fauci said that was a very big moment because it would be a much different picture we have right now had we allowed thousands and thousands of people from a specific area, I don't have to go into it, from China, to come in highly infected. It would have been a very different thing. The other thing, so I appreciate the fact that he did, because I was called xenophobic, racist, I was called many things when I did that very early. But I appreciated the fact that Joe Biden announced last night that he now agrees that I was correct. You saw the report come out that I was correct when I stopped people from China coming in at a very early date.
And I wasn't going to sit there and, and let all these assertions go by that just simply were not accurate.
Just real quickly, Joe Biden's campaign came out with a statement today saying that Biden would be...
Did he write the statement, or did some PR person write it?
As far as I know, the campaign was wide awake, sir, and they sent out a statement that Joe Biden would be open to having a phone call with you to talk about the coronavirus pandemic.
That's okay, sure.
Would you take his call?
Absolutely.
You would talk to him about it?
I'd love to speak to him, sure. He should be able
together.
I always found him to be a nice guy. I don't know him very well, frankly, but I think he's probably a nice guy. No, if he'd like to call, I'd absolutely take his call.
Yeah. You having a good time, Joe?
It's just who I am.
Cause Joe's a super creep, he's super creepy, yow.
Inappropriate.
Joe, everybody say, super creep,
smells some